everybody, it's time for video number 7 of building the body to the 37 Studebaker. We have quite a bit to cover in this segment, so let's get after it. You can see where I've continued to remove the wooden buck. Here's the piece I finished in the last segment, and I have to build this one now. It's the dash with the cowl. It's got the correct pattern, so I have to take it out. Okay, let's do that. It worked out pretty good that I had 2 pieces of plywood right here, because this piece can stay with the second half of the car here, and I can work from here forward. So I had to remove a few screws and a few rivets to give me room to get in there and get to the screws. So now I have a nice pattern that I can use to create the inner structure. If you've been following the Studebaker build since the beginning, you might recognize this piece. It's the Temporary-Cowl for the rolling chassis. My goal is to make one out of aluminum. This is built like a battleship. It's heavy and stout, but I want to make a nice, light, strong version. So I have a plan of attack. Let me show you what I have in mind. I've been working on this holding jig. It's going to hold all the aluminum components to this dash piece, this cowl inner structure. Around the outside, this part will be 1/8 inch thick by 2 inch aluminum. That will follow the outside shape of this pattern, the plywood pattern that came out of the car. Here's some of the stock that I've been using to learn how to turn these corners here. I've been working on shaping this structure, this piece. Let me show you that. So here's the piece. I just finished shaping it. There's the pattern I was following, and I was just using this pipe here in the vise, and just a little bit by hand I formed it, and I would just keep trial fitting until it lined up. So I was happy with that. It took me about, I don't know, maybe an hour. Let's see how it fits in the jig. Here I've slipped the aluminum into the jig, and it fits nicely. Very nice. Next, I have to do a 90-degree bend here, because the 2 mounting holes will be right here. So it's kind of tricky, because I have to get this length right. I don't want it to be too long or too short. I want it to fit in the jig after it turns the corner. So I've been practicing with this, and I've got it figured out how to measure and mark and where to place it in the bender so that I'll get what I want. So let's bend these 2 ends right now. The goal is to create this type of arrangement here, is where there'll be a tab with 2 mounting holes. And I can use these same bolts, actually. Alright, let's bend this. So this is a bender that I've had for, I don't know, probably 20 years in storage. And finally I brought it out and installed it, and I've used it a couple of times. It bends, you know, flat bar and tube. It's just a real simple arrangement. So I have it set up here to bend these pieces. I have my reference marks here. Let me zoom in a little closer. Okay. I've learned to give myself an extra 1/4 inch here. And then I just bend it, I just eyeball a 90 degree. I guess I could put a square on it, but it's easy enough to shape. Okay, so now let's do this other one. Whoops. Gotta get it just in the right spot. Okay. Okay, let's see how it fits. Well, it fits pretty good. I have to say I'm happy. It lay down in here real nice. That's the shape of the body. This will get cut off, 2 holes will get drilled, and that'll bolt right to the chassis. Now inside here, this web, this will be this 3/16 aluminum, which of course I have to shape. It'll be welded here. Let's see here. And then this piece. Get the idea here. Bear with me. So this will get welded here and here, and then obviously down in here. Okay, yeah, it's coming together. Alright, let's continue on. Here you can see the paper pattern. It's a poster board. I trimmed it so that it fits inside of this frame. Now I'm transferring that inside shape to 3 pieces of aluminum. It'll get welded here, here, and then it'll get welded around the outside. So my plan is to rough it out with the jigsaw and the bandsaw, and then use a router bit to clean it up, clean the edges up and make it smooth. Here you can see where I've used the Sharpie. Now I just need to stay inside the line. The inside of the line of the Sharpie is exactly the pattern. And you can see where I'll weld it here and here. Okay. I spent a fair amount of time on the bandsaw cutting these pieces out. And then I used the belt disc machine out there to get this outside shape correct. I still need to clean up these inside edges. Well, this one's a factory edge, but these here are still kind of rough. But I'm pleased with how it's progressing. So let's see. Let's get it ready for welding. Right now this dash cowl piece is upside down, so the front is on the underside. So I want the dash face to be recessed into the front a little bit. So that's the idea of these wood blocks, which I'm installing. And they'll hold up the aluminum to the correct height, basically 5/8 of an inch recess. So this will sit like this. So there's 5/8 of an inch here and 1 1/8 here, this height. So this will get stitch welded both sides. It should work out pretty good. I'm going to put in the rest of these blocks. I'm happy to say this jig worked out pretty well. I had a friend of mine stitch weld this, and see if I can get it out of here. So this is the back side It has the deeper recess. Turn it around here. So this is the front side, 5/8 recess. And I'll grind it a little bit, but generally speaking, I think I'll leave it the way it is. I'll clean it up. It'll get painted. I have to drill holes here. And yeah, I'm real pleased with how this turned out. Let's put it in the car and see how it fits. Oh yeah, this is an important piece of the overall puzzle. It holds the steering column. This will install on the back right there. And then I have to, I'm getting ready to mark it for the holes that go here and here. And then it'll get riveted. This is a little bit wide. As this comes up, the aluminum wants to run uphill, so I have to trim this back a little bit so it'll be closer to this edge. At least that's the thinking. Okay, so far so good. Here I've transferred the marks from the holes that were already drilled, and I've drilled out the bottom. It lines up. Actually, you can't see it on camera. So I'm going to mock that up. I'm going to put the bolts in it so that this is solid. I can get this mounted, and then I can focus on the skin. Alright. Okay, I've temporarily installed the 4 bolts. They're tight. And now I've located the bracket for the steering shaft. And I'm going to punch these 4 holes and get that bolted up. And that'll make this thing rigid as all get out. And once I attach the skin to it, it's going to be nice and stout. Okay, continuing on. Alright, this is coming together nicely. This is a 5/8 rod, steel rod steering shaft, and then there's a little bronze bushing, and then the locking collar, split locking collar, split style. Tighten that up, and that's done. It's clean and simple from this side. Nice. Alright, I'm pleased with the progress on this cowl piece, the dash. I need to work on getting this sheet metal to lay down. There's a big old gap right here because this is straight but this is angled. So I've made these relief cuts so that I can bend these tabs down. I'll show you here. You see that line right there? That's the angle that these tabs need to be bent to so that the sheet metal will lay down as tight as I can get. You can see right here on the top center, it's no problem at all. Let's say I move it out to here. There's a big old gap. Well, I can hammer these tabs down until that lays down better. And then I can sand this and shape it. So that's my strategy here. Let's see what happens. Here you can see where I've pounded these tabs down. I've gone all the way around. And now, you know, there's a little bit of a high spot here. So I'm using the belt sander here to create some little bit of contour and smooth it out. Yeah, I think that's going to work out nice. this is looking like it might work out just fine. Yeah, okay. I can work with that. Alright, I'm going to get it bolted back in so I can get this skin attached. I love it when a plan comes together. It's shaping up just fine. I have it clamped in place so I can put rivets around here going through the 1/8 inch aluminum. I got it to lay down much, much better. So I'm happy with that. And so I guess the next order of business will be to get these rivets in place, get it installed. Okay. Alright, I'm making progress. I have the rivets installed, and this front section is just stout as can be. I took out more of the wood buck. Little by little that's going away, and I installed these lower panels. So I need to focus on getting these installed, which hopefully won't take too long. Yep, it's shaping up pretty good. Alright, I'm down to the last piece of the puzzle here on this body. And this is this rear piece. It's 3 pieces. It's the center panel and these 2 outside corners. So I've been working on the trial fit, doing some trimming. I need to do some grinding. Little by little I'm getting it to fit good enough to join to these side panels with a row of rivets here. So, before long, all this wood here will go away. I'll have to rig up some kind of internal bracketry like I did on the front, but that won't be too tough, I don't think. I'm anxious to get the wood out of there. Okay. For the last couple of hours I've been working to get these 2 corners to fit this rear panel, and I've got them come together pretty good. Took quite a bit of grinding and shaping, but I'm happy with it. I have them clamped in place and I'm adding the rivets, and at that point I can remove the wooden buck and install these side panels. And as it turns out, this rear panel rests on the chassis, so initially the body will be held up by that. So that's encouraging. Alright, let's finish getting these rivets in and get that wood buck out of there. I've been working on this Studebaker a long time, but one of the major goals was to get the wood buck out of the car. The original concept was an all-metal car, steel and aluminum. And I'm happy to report all the wood has now been removed. And I'm pleased as can be. So I still have quite a bit to do. Lots of rivets to put in. I have to make some brackets. But this is working out fine. It's being supported right now by this piece of metal. And then there's it's also held together here at the cowl and some screws down at the front. So without too much trouble, I could remove the body as a whole. That might be a nice thing to do eventually. But anyway, I'm happy, and I want to get back to doing some more rivets here and finishing up the bracketry on the inside. All right. Next, I need to secure this rear panel. And this piece of steel was the bottom of the buck. And it already has a couple of holes drilled in it right here and here. So fashioning this piece of, I think this is 20 gauge steel, that I can weld to this bracket, and then I can rivet through here. Okay, I got to punch some holes in this and weld that on, and then that should solve that issue. Okay, let's punch some holes before I weld it. It goes through this 20 gauge like butter. And one more. All right. That works nice. Yeah, this is going to work out just fine. I'll drill through and then rivet it in place. That'll take care of that back panel. Alright, that is nice and strong. And clean too. I'm planning on putting another inner panel right here riveted to this going down. And also over here too. It's kind of part of the master plan. I'm also filling in these holes on either side. At least that's the thinking. Alright. I think I'll put the wheels on this thing and push it out in the driveway and get a look at it. Man, that's looking decent. You never really know when you start out on these things if they're going to end up okay or look like crap. But I'm happy. I got to work on the bottom of that nose a little bit, but all in all, okay, I'm gonna fire it up. Haven't started it in a while, so pretty sure it has some gas in it. One thing I've learned about these Honda engines is if you let them sit too long, say more than 3 or 4 months with the gas in there, then the carb gets a little gooped up and they don't idle very well. Sometimes you can run them and blow that out and get beyond it, but most of the time you got to take the carburetor off. But that's not too big a deal. So much for a test drive. Well, little by little, it's coming together. 2 years in the making. But I'm happy with the progress so far, so I'll just keep plugging away. I have this vision of what it's going to ultimately look like. So I think I'll call this the end of this segment. And as always, I sure appreciate that you watch. We'll see you next time.